Bonjour, thank you for joining me on stage.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this fabulous film.
Thank you.
So first of all, before you two met, before you decided to work on a film together, what did you think would be the most challenging thing about working together?
La chose la plus challenging de tous les deux.
Ça veut dire difficile?
Ouais. I think we really didn't thought about it because, you know, as I said, we met and then the third day we start walking, but we never planned of making a film. So we just say, let's go there next week, then let's go there, then, or maybe we should do a little more, so maybe it could be a 5-minute film, or then maybe we should do a little more, so maybe it's going to be a 10-minute film, or maybe it should be a video art, or we didn't have a plan. So actually, most of the people around us was kind of laughing at us. My team in my studio were like, what is this project? You know, after 6 months, they were like, what is the goal of this? And then we could never write a script, so then to get producer, or to find financing was really hard because they asked us, where is this film going? And we were like, well, actually, we don't know because we haven't done the journey.
Yeah, but since we decided it will report our meetings with people that we chose and other people who arrive in the film, we were like building the film, building the encounters. And also, since you filmed me somehow, to show how old I am and all that. I enjoyed it in a way, you know, because we are in the steps. I have difficulties to climb. You think it would help me say, hurry up. So that's the way I like to be treated because we don't want to be taken like, let's be careful with her. So you were not too careful. But when we had dinner somewhere, you just had to have butter with your bread. You would do something very disgusting. You would say what you said. No, say.
No, first, you know, if you want to ever have a dinner with Agnès Varda, you can go to the most busy restaurant. You get there and you say, you know, yes, we need a table right now. You know, Mrs. Varda cannot stay up, so they find you a table. And then as we sit, and you say, oh my God, you know, she needs butter and bread. You know. I would find any excuses, you know, and for her level of glucose or whatever, and then they would bring it right away, but she wouldn't even, you know, eat it. So she said I was using her, but the truth, she's kind of enjoyed it because she was then finally now she's a big fan of bread and butter.
In a way, you use my age for your profit,
and it feels good.
How important was JR's truck for getting people to engage in what you were doing?
Comment le camion que j'ai, c'était important pour toi pour engager dans le film?
Well, you know, I always loved trucks. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, some of you have seen The Gleaners and I. And even I was treating a very serious subject, which is the waste, which is the people who have to eat what we throw away. But during the film, during the shooting, I tried to enjoy myself. And we were following trucks. At some point, I took the camera and I said, can I get the truck? And I start to, as a game, to film my hand getting the trucks. So I've been always loving trucks. So he's magical, you know, because you have something coming out small and going out big. So I thought if I could travel with that truck, it would be a dream. But it was not a dream, but it was a trip.
Importantly, who picked the music for the road trip?
That's, you know, so Mathieu Chez did the music of the film. I happen to know him, but she happens to know him since he's a little baby. Mm-hmm. So he... You know, I had dinner with him one night, and I say, you know, I'm doing this thing with Agnès. Actually, oh well, you know, why don't you know, we haven't even thought of the music yet. This is too early, and so I say, but come to the house because it's next to where you live, so you'll see Agnès. So he came, and she's gonna stop me really soon, so I'm gonna try to be the fastest because then she's gonna make her own story about it. But he came to the house. Saw some images where the film was going, you know, actually nowhere. He's actually, you know, he's an incredible musician, won so many awards for his music, most, you know, successful you can imagine. And he came there, looked at a few images, and just out of, you know, enthusiasm, he started composing something very quick and sent it to us the same night. And I haven't checked my email, and Agnès checked and called him and said, Mathieu, I am really disappointed. Really, really. This is terrible, Mathieu. It's awful. I don't even know what to say. And so he calls me and say, oh my God, did I do something wrong? I was like, what? I didn't follow.
I just say that he should not be lazy. But then he worked a lot, and we ended up pleased with really what he brought to the film.
Oh, yeah. And Agnès was really behind it in his studio, making him recompose every note. When everything was locked and that's it, the next day she would go back, and I had no idea, so I was not even there. And then I asked him, I said, was that just out of, did it make sense? And he said, actually, she was right, musically, and we did a mistake here and there. Mm-hmm. And, it's amazing. On this, it's really to Agnès' credit also.
We love the music of the film, the way it is now.
We see you engaging with the mining community, dock workers, farmers. Why did you choose to put an emphasis on these communities?
On nous voit engagés avec plein de communautés différentes, les dockers, les fermiers. Pourquoi avec ces communautés?
We exaggerate, but we want to cover the idea we had. Some peasants in the country, some people in villages, some workers in factory, some people who care about goats. We were trying to open the field of the encounters we could do and learn something from the people we were meeting. And there is an example, is that we were always ready to get what was offered. We were in the factory, and we had spoken with the workers, and JR, was playing, comment ça s'appelle tennis de table? Ping pong?
Oh yeah, ping pong.
Mm-hmm. And they were playing, and suddenly I see a man, well-dressed, and I say, well, you are going somewhere. You look so good, so well. And he said, oh, it's because I have to meet my pals. It's my last day in the factory. And we got the camera. At the minute he said that, we jumped and get the camera, because he would not have said it later, I guess, but he started to say something about what it is to feel after 35 years of a difficult work in a chemical, dangerous factory. And here's the last day. You think he would be happy to go and rest. He felt totally destroyed. He said, I'm on the edge of the cliff. I think I will fall. And I was thinking, we film him, and what he says is touching, but I thought we always discuss retirement, at what age, how much they get. Everybody speaks about disgusting to pay for the retirement. And here we had the other side. What is it to finish the work? And I was so touched that we could get his words in the film. He brought something very human, very touching, that we were ready to catch, but it was not prepared. So we have many opportunities like this in the village. The man who said that il fait les cloches, là, comme on dit.
The bells, the guy who did the bells. I mean, we really, improvised those encounters depending on where we were. And some people, like the dockers, I knew from before. But it took me a year to bring Agnès there, because she was like, I don't care about those guys there. This is not a village.
No, it's because it's a big city, Le Havre. Mm-hmm. And he started to say, we are in a part of the city which could be taken as a village. I said, okay, then I come.
Anyway, it was hard to negotiate with Agnès, trust me.
Well, the minute you introduce me all these guys, very nice guys, and say, where are the wives? Where are the women? Mm. So my feminist side started to blow, and I say, hey, we have to see this woman. And we ended up, as you have seen, with big totems, with the man, the husband helping. And we were lucky because the factory was in strike. So they could do what they wanted, because it could not have been possible.
The world of dockers is the same pretty much everywhere, but so it's only men. And in Le Havre, for example, those women who have only grew up or raised in the middle of docks and with their husband walking there, and have never put a feet there, except the woman who actually drove the truck. So that was first a big thing, but also it was the biggest strike in the recent years. So they had meeting every couple of hours in a point of the port behind huge walls of containers and a fire in the center. They would meet there. The head of the dockers would talk to all the guys. There's no journalist. There's no people outside from their world. They were really strict about that. And so we were not even trying to get close to that. But then one of the dockers told me, they know we're might do something, over there. So I think they're ready for you, and I already met them all before, but I've never been to such gathering, and they're ready also for Agnès to come. So you guys, if you want to come, and so we say, okay, sure, and we walk, and as we walk, it was really impressive. Like Agnès, her size is kind of that's her size actually, and she walked through, and all the men's kind of open up like that, and they stopped the speech. And then she approached, and the head of the syndicate, who's like a big guy, went down and saluted her. And then she said, we're so sorry that we're interfering with, you're fighting for your rights and your stuff. And so we don't want to interfere with that. And he said, look, let us do that job during that time, out. And what you guys do that inspires us should continue. So please, go on and continue. And then that's it. It was a few minutes, and we walked back. And then we had the whole port for ourselves.
I like that scene because it builds itself. Because I asked the women to go. And then because they were interesting women, they had things to say, that we started to build a monument for them. And the men helped. And I had the feeling that at the end of the film, they were a little less macho and a little more open to celebrate the women as women. Not only as their own wives. Sure. Anyway.
And what do you think it meant to those women to be called upon?
Most of the people, they like to be noticed. They like to be recognized. And when you bring light on somebody who is not used to be in the light, I would say, some are shy, but most of the people like to be recognized as important human beings, which we did with everybody in the country or elsewhere. We thought that, we are surrounded by a world of images of people we don't like. We have huge images of actors, huge models. They sell soap, they sell cosmetics, they sell cars, always a lot of faces that we have to see in the magazine, on the walls. And I say, for a change, could we put people who don't have a name, who don't sell anything, just themselves? So our empathy to one or another and say, can we make you big? Can we put you on the wall? Look at the mailman. He ended up with a three floors house, a huge mailman. But he was an important man in the village, like always mailmen, But this one became the most famous mailman of the la région.
Of the surrounding.
From France.
As documentary makers, where do you feel the balance lies between revealing things about yourself? We meet your grandmother, but then you don't want to reveal too much about yourself. So between that and concentrating on the people who are in the murals.
En tant que réalisateur de films documentaires, quelle est la ligne entre révéler des choses personnelles, comme moi j'ai montré à ma grand-mère, et montrer les gens?
No, the subject is to show other people that we meet, to make a portrait of people living in France. But since we are filming and our life is there also, I don't dislike to bring something personal because we are not machine making film, we are people. So it is true that I was delighted to meet his grandmother because he spoke about the grandmother. You didn't give so much more about yourself and your family. When I showed my toes, I was, daring, and you said they were not too good to look at, but you ended up putting them on a train, sending me to travel. So I think, if you want to please somebody, can you imagine to put the toes on a train and send the train? I think, is that a mark of sympathy? Is it a kind of kindness? Is it crazy? I took it as it was. And I was so pleased because a worker in the factory, look at my feet and say, yes, it's true that they're small. So in my life, a worker in a factory noticed my toes. So it's a way of saying.
Yeah, that guy asked a great question. He said, what is the meaning of all this? And that's what we encountered all the time, is that we had to explain. And Agnès gave the best, definition. It's like, oh, we did a little bit of what we feel, and we also represent you, and then we hope that you let us play a bit with our imagination, and then it might make sense or not. Basically, that's where we were the whole time. And about revealing about ourselves, I think because we were both curious of getting to know each other, because we didn't know each other. Sometimes we would discuss about, filming. When we discussed in that kitchen that you saw, we spent, more time in this kitchen than actually traveling in the film, because that's where we would see each other each time in Paris and brainstorm. And a lot of time we were completely lost into where was this going, and
we were helped by ideas. We were looking for a place, and somebody said there is a village that's been not finished to build and already in ruin. So it was intriguing. We sent 2 women a week to go around and say, would you, to the villages around, say, are you ready to come Saturday, that one Saturday? And then we came with the truck, and people came. We had prepared a little picnic and all that. But the idea is that when you started to tell them, let's cut your faces after the photo, and they were proposed to glue, comment on dit paste, but to create fake families. It was nice. They put an old man, always, old parents, and then father, mother, and then children. So they were playing with themselves, with the neighbors, with people of other villages. They created like families, and they didn't know sometimes each other. So it's like creating an event in which people are friendly, play with their own faces, play with the day, they ate the picnic, they enjoyed the day, and we had the feeling we were doing something for ourselves, but for them. They will remember that day, because it was so strange for them. And then we knew that the rain, the wind, will erase everything in a few days. So it's like an event that we were creating to put people together and try to be in good shape together.
Dare I ask about the editing process? How did that work between you?
You're editing the montage?
Yeah.
Well, I love the editing part of the film.
We there was, the idea from the beginning that Agnès would edit it. I think I'm too hyperactive to stay in a room.
It's not
8
that you're not
hours.
able.
No,
it's because I've been doing so much editing, and it's so important, because you have to create some surprises, but find a thread, because we're from one place to another, one people to another. Find a thread, find little connections, so that it would be fluid, comment on dit? Fluid? No.
Fluid.
No. Fluid.
Fluid.
Well,
Fluid. Oh, yeah.
Like a river,
The accent.
that you agree that the river goes on. So I spent a lot of time in the editing. And you were coming, he was giving his opinion here and there. But
Why do I get the feeling that
basically,
didn't mean very
I couldn't
much?
give my opinion in the room with her, because then she would contradict it right away. So after a while, I said, I'm not coming anymore. Then she said, no, you have to keep coming, because I need your help. So then I was like, okay, if you get out of the room so I can leave my comments, then you'll find them when you go back in the room. And we would do back and forth like that. But the truth is, she did the hard work, because she was really, breathing the film over day and night. She would call me at 2 a.m. and say, I have an idea, this should link us to there, or maybe we need to reconnect with that. And it was hard to imagine.
But editing is a big part of author films, in which you are responsible of the ideas. We were together responsible of the shooting, of the meeting, choosing the music, and then the editing. I felt a little more involved because I was there every day. And it's a very, sometimes, comment on dit tapisserie? Tapestry? Mm-hmm. Something in which you have to do the background, it's very long. And I love that time. And you came, and I heard and I took care of whatever you say. I respect it, I change it. But mostly...
Sounds better like this than in real life, but that's,
Anyway, when we finished the film, we agreed totally to do the promotion together. And promotion, it can be a bore because you are supposed to sell the film, you are supposed to go everywhere. And we decided we will do it as a joke, as a promenade. So we did a lot of promotion and going there, enjoying ourselves, sort of. Like, we are very happy to be here.
I mean, it's in the contract, right? So we have to, but, I think like that's actually our last time we probably show the film together. But I think I'll call you after. I mean, I'll take some news sometimes. We might see each other again, right? Because now it's the last time where we actually present the film. I'll keep your number, that's what I mean. I mean, we're like...
Agnès is so not fussed about this. I'm going to open it up to the audience. So if you do have a question, please put your hand up and we will get a microphone to you.
There's many.
Yeah, there are quite a few. There's a lady just here. And then afterwards, a gentleman in the middle.
Déjà, merci. Ça m'a fait penser à mes grands-parents, donc ça m'a beaucoup touchée. Anyway, my question is, I just want to ask about the voiceover, la voix off. How much of it was written? How much of it was improvised?
The voiceover. Est-ce que la voix off, est-ce que c'était improvisé? Est-ce que c'était écrit?
Oh, the voiceover is something that sometimes I have in my mind when we shoot. Same thing. You said something. Maybe we should say that. No, we thought it over. And then in the editing room, I start to write it, and then I do it with the telephone.
Yeah.
He came. We did some discussion on the telephone and trying on the film right away. We don't like it, we do it again off the telephone. So we had like a brouillon, je sais pas, like a first draft, and then when we had to mix, we went in the studio to do it with the real sound. But we could work right away to evaluate if it's too much or we should say something. It's delicate.
But she's the master of that. Actually, when you speak with her in movie or out of movie, it's a constant voiceover. There's no difference in her voice in the movie than in real life. And that's amazing. I didn't have that, so it was really hard for me. So she trained me. I remember really being in her house, it's raining outside, and she's going through the course of like, no, speak more like this, with the back of your voice. And then, I don't know, it sounded terrible for a long time, and it's still hard for me to listen. And her and Mathieu Chédid, actually, the composer, really helped me to solve that.
Sometimes the way would ask you to make on the telephone from the place you were sending a sentence so we could try it. It was like, you have to find the right equilibre. Yeah. We didn't find
balance,
it, but that's what you work on that. Some words, but not too much. Explanation, but not too much. And proposing little path, proposing a way of seeing the film, suggesting a reading, So it's very interesting to do, and the time is very long, but I enjoy that time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
There's a gentleman
merci.
just behind you. Thank you.
Have you heard or seen from Godard since? And has he apologized or explained himself?
Well, the thing strange about the Godard thing is that one day J.R. had said, I would like to meet Godard one day. Okay, fine, why not? Then when I said, let's make a trip, let's go to see him. And we had an appointment, and we had been on the telephone with his assistant. Okay, that day, 11. Then they called back and said, you better do it at 9:30 a.m. So we took the train, we took an hotel to be sure to be on time. And I was sort of happy to have these guys meet. But then, as you see in the film, it didn't open. And he wrote something. So at that point, the film became a real documentary, because that was not expected at all. So Roberto and Mathieu were filming. They filmed what was happening. That was not supposed to be in the film. So the shock that I got, because he spoke about Jacques Demy, and I was shocked in a way, I was in pain. But then we went to the lake, and we started to calm down. I started to calm down. And you improvise lines. So the end of the film is really improvised, well shot by the DP. But that's what happened, really. And later on, I thought that, thanks God it didn't open. He built a new screenplay. He built the screenplay. He added a scene to the film. So I think it's
But
okay.
have you heard from him since?
Est-ce que tu as entendu parler, il a rappelé après ou pas?
We send him a DVD.
No, but you know what's incredible, and just being a witness of that scene, because first I didn't understand the code, you know, that was written on the door, that was only directed to her, and also, you know, I'm more a fan of Agnès than of Godard.
Who
you know.
isn't? I mean.
No, but in general, I mean, even before. So of course I saw the connection with the glasses. That was, you know, I thought that was funny, and I didn't realize, because I've never saw pictures of him with glasses. So then I realized, wow, there's all those photos. It's true. That must be weird for you, even if it's a complete different story. And then suddenly I'm there in the middle of their story, and of course first I think he's an asshole, and then we go and sit. And then, you know, I calmed down Agnès, and then after that, we still had some time because our train was in the afternoon. And, you know, if I was her, I would have been, okay, now that is done. Let me give him a call and, you know, and tell him, hey, why don't, you know, me and you meet, just so that, because we might never see each other again. And she didn't. She haven't even mentioned that once. And on the other end, our phone haven't even rang. So I thought it was kind of insane that, you know, it's beautiful poetry in cinema. That's what he did, and he knew it would, you know, touch her deep, and it would create a scene. But they don't see boundaries between cinema and real life. In real life, they haven't called each other to talk about it. That's it. That's the same thing, and that inspired me deeply, because I was like, wow, you know, the fact to not be able to talk about it and say, you know, our generation will be right after WhatsApp saying, what did you think? It's cool. Yeah, got great shot. See you, you know. And their generation is like no word at all. Not even like, hey, you know, I'm glad I didn't open the door, and smiley with a little, like, you know, pineapple, and. And so it's I'm still amazed by that they.
Whatever. I look.
If you have to tweet one thing, you can quote Agnès Varda, whatever. It's a great
you know, we used to be very friendly with Jacques Demy and Anna years ago. We had beautiful time together, some years, and then we lost contact, as we say. And I still admire Godard's work. I think he's making experimental films all the time. We need people like that. And if he has been a bad dog with me, it's not important, because what he does is important in the cinema. So I should forget about our friendship, and that's it.
And what he wrote is actually connecting to a summer that they had when they were all at the top of their career, and the four of them were, you know, having the greatest holiday, where they were all like, you know, creating the most amazing films, and, you know, and so, you know, he was referring to that, like, let's stay on the memory of that summer, basically, and not see each other again. In a way, that's my interpretation, but and he had sent that also when Jacques Demy passed away. You know, so it was really precise, and I had no idea of what it represented. So that's why, you know, I think it took Agnès by surprise, and I was completely lost. And the chance also is that day was Rosalie, so Agnès' daughter, who's here, and Mathieu, her son, were both there, and they haven't been there on any scene of the movie. So they were there that day, and Mathieu was filming. So, you know, he felt comfortable, like, coming close to his mother, and our friend Roberto also. So, you know, any other day, someone who would be a younger cameraman would have freaked out. I was like, oh my God, this is, you know, should we cut? What should we do? And so it was, you know, her own son who could approach her.
Thank you for asking that question. That was an amazing response. We have, the slow microphone walk. We've got a lady waving right in the back row, and then a gentleman just in front of her for the next question.
It's just a question about the goats. And it's a wonderful film, you know, shot with warmth and humanity. But did you get to taste the different goat's cheese? Was there a difference between the cheese that came from the horned goats that were hand-reared, and what about the hornless goats that were factory milked? I just wondered if you could taste the difference in the goat's cheese.
That was a really good question. Thank you for asking it.
I'm a fanatic of goat cheese. It is true. And there are many, at least in France, there are many different ways, different tastes. You have rocamadour, you have the sel-sur-chair, many. But my question was that for some reason, I noticed that I saw un troupeau, comment on dit, and they had no horns. So I started to question, and I said to JR, let's investigate about that.
I really laughed when she said that.
Yes.
But then I realized she was really serious.
He said, goats. Goats. I said, yes, goats. So we started to investigate, speak to people, and we found out that it's become usual now to burn the horn, the horns, they call, when the animals are very young, Then, as the man said, it lasts 30 seconds, they don't suffer, fine. But I was shocked. And so we were so happy looking around to find that woman that we filmed, who was so strong about, you cannot touch the identity of an animal, it's disgusting, and the way she was so vehement, comment on dit, so strongly sure of the protection of the beauty of the animal, made us feel very good. And the other man who had been nice enough to speak with us and explain that the goats don't suffer, but he looks like the man, he looks like the méchant, comment on dit,
A bad guy.
Well, I don't know. Have you heard about the stories about the horns? Somebody knew about that or not?
No.
No. Me too. You knew about it? Oh, wow.
One person.
Yeah. But, when I told my team, let's go paste a goat, they all looked at me like, where is this project going, And it was hard, to actually, suddenly ended up doing a shoot with goats and I don't know why at that time it didn't click. We were so much in the movie, not knowing where it was going, that it sounds all clear after. But during, we were,
You weren't expecting to stumble into goat politics.
No, exactly. And I love the symbolic of the goat to represent the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And I should have seen that earlier. But then, of course, with the journey, we meet that incredible mechanic who say, well, we should find solutions with putting them color balls on the... And then, then that's the thing of pasting giant images, is that it pushes people to bring the creativity out of them.
It was not a Q&A situation. We had a conversation, and that man who noticed the goat started to imagine what could be done. So he was not answering us. He was opening his own imagination. And that's the best you can do when you deal with people, that they are not related only to the question we raise, but they become part of the question. And the way he spoke, what could be done to preserve the goats to fight, I felt very good. I felt that we did something which is good, is that we make them think for themselves, not only answering us, which is very important in the documentary.
And then we're going to watch the second part of the movie, which is 4 hours. And it's only focused on the goat story, what happened to her.
I would happily watch that.
And we're not in the movie anymore, but we thought, that's the real respect we could show the goat.
Thank you very much for your film. I really enjoyed watching it. I wanted to ask you about the editing process, because you already mentioned that's very important for you, the editing process. I know many filmmakers actually hate that post-production because it's very agonizing. You can make it in so different ways. Do you edit yourself, or you work with your, one devoted editor? You work for many different films. So would you just share some of kind of that behind-the-scene editing process? What do you cherish about it the most?
Si tu travailles seul ou avec quelqu'un.
Well, I don't know how to manipulate. I don't know how to manipulate the computers. I have a good editor with me, always a man who could maybe edit alone, but they accept that I do the editing with my mind, and he does, or she does the job, because you have to touch all these buttons. I understand nothing. I used to know the 35 millimeter, and we knew how to splice it, to
cut
use
it. And
so, but these laws. And as you know, this is out of the film. But now that we have all these boxes of composite prints, I started to build shacks with film. So, because recycling is part of our life, but this is not in the film. Let's go back to Faces, Places.
Yes.
Thank you for a beautiful film. It was lovely.
Thank you.
My question is about the magic of the sort of serendipity of you finding these extraordinary people. You find a woman who talks about goats in a way which is sort of poetry, and that's the magic for me, was seeing that happen. But I now think, was there a woman who talked about chickens who you just left on the cutting room floor? Or did you really, did the people you chose to film, you found them? Were there loads of other people you filmed and then didn't use?
La sérendipité des rencontres.
Comment?
La sérendipité des rencontres. Tu sais, la chance des rencontres, le hasard. Agnès say the chances is her best, assistant. And it's true, it's how I walk, it's how she walk. We could do a film in this room and would find as incredible story. And the truth is, when we went and saw Janine, for example, the last woman living in the street, when we arrived there, we knew nobody. We went in her first street and nobody answered. And we went in another street and a man opened the door and said, it's actually my mother's house. She's sleeping upstairs. And we said, that's perfect. You guys are the last one of this street. Can we talk to her? And he said, no, she already talked to some journalists. She don't want to talk to anybody. So we said, no, we're doing a movie. So we explained. It was, it was rainy. The guy was saying no. And he said, there's no way. We don't know. And then we say, okay, we lost.
That's where the chance helped us.
Exactly. Then we say, we lost, our time. And then we go to the other street and ring a bell and Janine appear. And, that had happened in every places. So we would just, let the garagist was the only guy who was living by where we pasted the goat. So the first thing when you look at that wall is like, nobody's going to ever see it. And yet there's this guy who was closing his door and we catch him. Everything kind of happened like that.
Janine, she played the game. She asked old miner to come, and you somebody in your crew, and you decided to revive all these houses. So they found images of the beginning of the century miners,
Yeah.
and you put them on the other houses. It was like reviving something. And Janine was so happy that she was able to speak about her father and all the things she told us that we never heard of. But and when you did the big face of Janine on the house, he was so surprised, so touched. It was really a friendship that happened between all of us. And when the film was shown in her village, she was the star, she was so important. And somebody from our company went because I couldn't go. And now she has been kicked out of the house. She's in another, more sane because it was dangerous where she was. But she said that she ended her life there with us. It's like a very good memory to end her life in that house where she had been always.
And you sent chocolates to each other still.
Oh, sure. Christmas is coming. Another chocolate will start to go everywhere.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry, but that is all we've got time for. This is going to have to be the final memory of tonight. Thank you so much
Thank
to
you.
Agnès Varda and JR. Thank you for joining us.